Let's pretend like that never happened.
Hey,
Welcome
everybody.
to the show.
Hey everybody, I'm Lex,
I'm Jordan at pdq.com.
and yeah, if you were watching the pre-show, I tried to end on a high note.
They're going to cut that out. No one knows what we're talking about.
That's a good point.
We're talking about folder permissions.
Okay, I like ackles, cackles, schmackles, shackles.
No, yeah, so in the olden times,
The olden times.
back when everyone had to return a string instead of an object, they would use iCackles. Is that the way it's supposed to be pronounced? It's so outdated. I'm not sure.
Icackles? I don't know. That's
So it's just in the command prompt here. If we run that, just iCackles. Apparently, I failed processing one file because I didn't put a backslash.
well. There
There
you
you
go.
go. That's a path.
And then now, while you're running that, okay, just to make sure that for the slow people here, which would be me today, folder permissions, file permissions, prevent people from changing stuff that shouldn't have access to it. I mean,
Yeah, so when it comes to all these permissions, there's kind of different groups you're going to have to do. If it's just a single one-off, the iCackles is just as good as anything else, and it's what you're comfortable with, you're going to be faster with it. PowerShell is good at doing larger groups of things, or if there's a mass change, and if you're looking domain-wide, just use group policy.
okay, so so we're just basically file permissions and folder permissions, just making sure that you keep things secure. I mean, mostly security, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did run with iCackles against our temp folder, and as you can see, there's an account in there up to no good. That seems suspicious.
Wow, it does. I would think they were up to no good.
Yeah. So we're just kind of showcasing different ways we can find out what we can do with it, how we can remove it.
Yeah.
So with iCackles, it's well, to add is grant. It's probably /remove on that one, but we're not gonna dive too deep into that one. We can cover one thing that does, I think, have a lot of value is you can do save. We'll just name it ACL list, and we're not giving it a full path. It's just going to save it in the folder that the command prompt's running in.
Okay.
And that will save the permissions for that folder as it is.
Okay, benefits.
So if something happens that either wipes out your permissions or something changes, you can then import that information and put it back out. If you do a -t, it would do a recursive one
Oh, okay.
where it goes to that. So if we go into temp where that is saved and open that one with Notepad, not Internet Explorer, it's
That's a lot of
saving it as
gibberish,
something
man.
as SDDL, which, one second, I have this memorized. Security Descriptor Definition Language. Knew that off the top of my head.
I
Definition
could
of
tell.
memorizing.
I could tell. Okay, so basically, these are the permissions set for, obviously, the folders and the stuff in there.
Yep, this is...
And it's gibberish, man. It really means nothing to me.
Yeah, the computer absolutely understands it. We don't so much. So that's why if you import this and copy it over, it will copy the exact same permissions that you had before.
Okay.
Down to each file. As you see, when we just ran the command itself up here, it made it in the user-readable format. And like I said, but this has come back as a string, which I'm not a big...
Okay.
Because all the data's there, but if you're going to do anything with this, you either have to send it as it is completely and hope that whatever it is can read it, or you have to go through and trim out what you don't want.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. You're gonna say PowerShell is a better way to deal with it because you can make it an object.
For me, it is, yes. 'Cause
Okay.
Results that return PowerShell, in most cases, is going to be an object. If you run like a command line tool from PowerShell, it's just going to capture the output of
Show
that
me how to
tool.
do what you just did in PowerShell.
In PowerShell?
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing we do is, I guess, the git-acl is how we see it. We're in that without assigning anything, which that's not as clean there. But if we just do FL, which we're not supposed to, I'll do format list. So all those that tell me not to use aliases can be happy. It comes in, it lets you know the path where it's at, who lists the owner, which is important for if you really need to go make permission changes, you lost access.
Yeah.
That account can do it. The group, and then these are the permissions here, and right down there you can see it still has the SDDL.
What was that again? What is SDDL?
Oh, I know this one. It's a Security Descriptor Definition Language.
All right, I'm going to borrow that from you in a minute. But okay, so you can get it two different ways to get the same information.
Yep, and PowerShell does have the ability to convert the SEL into readable as well, but where you can just do access, which will make it more readable for you. I'm probably going to want the opening parenthesis too. It comes back, and it just comes back with the exact same information as we saw the output. Instead of the 2-digit code or the letter code that the command line gave us, it gives us a bit clearer picture, but it's not, it's all the same information. It lets you know if it's inherited, what you can do with it, where we're going to go forward.
Okay. Every time you bring up command versus PowerShell, it always seems PowerShell's got like significantly more options or things that you can do as compared to the command line. Sorry, you were typing.
Yeah, no, and that's true. So with the git ACL, it has a lot of the same things that we saw there. To make the change, you have to put it into set. But if you're looking for everything it can do, if you pipe that into git member, as you can see, we have code properties. This is where that access is being converted that we pulled. Same with the SEDL information's in there. And then it has methods. This is acting on the data that we have. So we can modify an access rule, or you can turn on auditing rule, or remove access rule, I believe. This one is if the permissions are inherited, you can use this to remove inheritance before you remove the accounts that you don't want.
Okay, so hierarchy on permissions, right? If I've got a folder that says that has inherited permissions, right? If I go in the folder and I change one of the files in that folder to different permissions, what's going to take precedence?
So if inheritance is on, whatever you change on the upper level is going to push down below. If it's off, it's only going to change on the folder, not for the files beneath it.
Okay. So again, I just think of troubleshooting because, I've been down this path before. It's like I thought I had the permission set properly, and it just, what did I do wrong? So.
Yeah, and this is where capturing that, like we do with the iCackles, and later we'll show how to do it with PowerShell, where you can capture your exact security infrastructure, save that to a file document, and if something goes wrong or you need to reset, you can do that. In the case where something goes really bad, just group policy set, this is the new structure I want from the base, and then you can work from there. Group policy is always going to be one that's going to hit.
Okay, so if we're going to break down like best tool for the job, right? So group policy for global stuff, right?
Absolutely.
It just kind of makes sense. And then how do the other two fall, in your opinion, like PowerShell versus the command line?
Well, for me, everything after the whole global one is PowerShell. But if you're more familiar with the iCackles for a one-off or one that you know exactly what you're targeting, if that's what you're familiar with, it's going to work the same. Just use what's best for you. I just prefer PowerShell. We're just kind of diving into an alternate option, I suppose. We mentioned converting the SEDL into access, and what that is actually a command you can pipe it into is convert from -sddl string, which we'll try this live. Maybe I should name that a variable. Well, that wasn't an S.
While you're doing that, it was interesting. I was talking to Brock. We were talking to Brock yesterday, and using PowerShell, using this. Brock, you had mentioned yesterday where you had done a bunch of file copies, right? You there, man?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so what happened with that copy, and how did that all come into play?
You think about scenarios where something like this would come in handy, and I was copying a file server over to a new server, and lo and behold, when I copied all the files, it took forever, terabytes of data and stuff, and when it all came over, the permissions didn't come over correctly, and I was in a bit of a panic, and so I was like, okay, I got enough time, so I'm just going to wipe this all out, redo everything, make sure I grab the correct permissions. But, in reality, I could have made it a lot easier by just using a tool like this to get all those permissions for me, and it would have gone a lot quicker.
So basically, when you copied them, they all became your files.
Yeah, and I found out because I had my network administrator there with me, and I had great everywhere I went, I had access to all the files I needed, and everywhere he went, he had access to none of them. So
interesting. I've never done that. A couple of times. So,
I feel like it's a rite of passage in IT.
True.
If you haven't broken something horribly, has your IT career even started?
Okay, I guess the question is, if you can admit that you've done it. It's one thing to do it, and it's another to be able to admit that you've done something like that. All right, sorry to sidetrack that. I just kind of,
Oh, no.
it was kind of a,
This is good. We mentioned earlier removing the inheritance,
Yeah.
and the way it works is not as intuitive as it should be. Before I just went with this is what you need to put in there, and then some people were like, oh, I'd like to know the reasons behind that instead of just that it's there. So right here we grabbed the ACL for temp, and then this one right here is where we're going to go through each one. We're going to set the rule protection to not have inheritance, which in this case is true.
okay, just the smile there, that makes no sense.
Yeah,
True does,
so
okay.
You have to put true in both, otherwise it's not going to turn off inheritance. It seems counterintuitive.
It ain't never going to work? Is that what we're getting with here?
So I've brought up the command here in the .NET documentation, and the first one that you're putting true is it protected, which true means you're protecting the access rules associated with this, and false is to allow inheritance. So if you set it to false, it's going to allow inheritance to be on there. Setting it to true locks it as is and blocks inheritance.
Okay.
The next one is preserve inheritance. So if you put this one to false when the other one's true, it's going to remove inheritance from everything. It's going to wipe out everything that was there by inheritance. Where if you set it to true, it keeps the permissions on as is and just sets them to not be inheritance. So if you're looking for a clean break, true false will remove inheritance and wipe out every permission that didn't come from inheritance. True keeps the permissions as they are, just removes the inheritance flag. Which it makes sense when it's there, but just looking at it true
Yeah.
as to keep it seemed backwards,
seems
but
counterintuitive, yeah.
that made a little bit more sense if we have to know why, instead of just running it. And that last thing with gitcl is if we do something like this when I'm setting this access rule protection, I set that for the object that I grabbed, not for the files. So I grabbed all the permissions in an
Okay.
object, I'm modifying that object, and then I still have to take that object after I modify it and pipe that into set ACL, and that's what will actually change the permissions. So for that, now it's going to go through and turn off inheritance. I guess you see if it worked.
Game on. So what you're doing, just go in the file,
And just going to
browser
the temp and
properties.
checking the properties, security and advanced, enable inheritance. So inheritance is turned off, but all of the things that were in there did stay.
Very
Right.
cool.
So that's just one. If something is inherited and you do the remove, it's not going to give you an error.
Okay.
So if you're trying to remove it and it's not removing, check the inheritance. And if you look at the access, which we'll bring that up again. It has right here, is inherited equals true. It still says true because I haven't rerun the command to pull in the new ACL with that one. And then it has inherit only. So it has all the permissions here to let you know if it is inherited. Or if you don't want to mess with it, just run it through this one, remove all inheritance, and then you can get rid of whatever account you want to get rid of. We're actually going to rerun that just so we can show the inheritance flag should be changed. Yeah, so now it is inherited and it's false. So it changed that. So now we can remove it.
Okay, so just takeaways from there. If you want to turn off inheritance, true. And then any adjustments you do, adjust in PowerShell, adjust the object, so you do have to set it when you're done.
Yep. Yeah, I'm used to in PowerShell, when you run something, it changes exactly what you're working on. In this case, it makes sense. We're pulling in a bunch of information. We're modifying. We do have to reapply it out to the machine. It makes sense that it's required, but it's not really the standard behavior of PowerShell.
Yeah. Should we take a question?
Absolutely.
All right, gentlemen, I'm looking for the command to stop the service account for Cisco AMP with a password and then uninstall it with a password. I can't get past step 1. What's up? Thomas T.
So will it not let you stop at all without the password?
Stop the service account. Huh.
Just
Nice.
wonder, is
Does
there
the
a-
account he's trying to run it from have
Permissions
permissions
to it?
to that service?
Yeah, the first is, do you have permissions to it? Second is, the password.
And I was looking through to see if there's for stop service, if there was a credential attribute where you could supply a credential that way, but I'm not seeing that as an option.
Yeah, I'm kind of stumped on that one.
So he says it was correct on our assumptions, which I must have missed while I was looking at the command. So we have to supply a separate password outside of those credentials to stop it. So I mean, I don't see where stop service we can supply the credential on that one. That's one where I'd have to go and research that. I've never had to mess with requiring a password to stop a service. The uninstall should be fine because when you do the uninstall, you can supply a credential at that point. And then there's a lot of blogs or videos out there. Chris wrote a lot of them, building a credential object where you're not sending through in clear text. So you can build a credential object based off of key file and everything, put over there, import it, and then supply that for the uninstall. I'm not sure how to supply the credentials to the stop service without looking at it.
That's kind of a roundabout way to say we don't know.
Well, we got the basis.
Yeah, that's true.
If we can figure out how to supply the same credentials to the stop, if the credentials are the same, to the stop service part, then that would work just fine. You just have to follow the blogs we have about building the credential objects.
True. Want to do another one, or should we move on?
Keep going.
Keep going. Okay.
All right. So now that we've covered how to remove whether anything was inherited, we saw earlier we had up to no good, which we want to remove.
Yeah.
So in this one with ACL, I'm looking specifically in ctemp. You can do a more recursive one where you could do just.
I'm going to assume up to no good was up to no good and kind of
we're
smattered stuff all over the place.
Yeah, we're absolutely going to remove him. The problem is we're looking at one, so this is going to run really fast. It's looking at one specific folder. It's going through. It's going to remove it. If you want to search a larger base, like if up to no good's been added to a whole bunch of places, you can run it against just your entire C drive. Just know that's going to take a long time. And when you get to things like your system files, you're probably going to run into some errors.
And once again, in our case, up to no good was a logged in user named up to no good. So
it's a local admin.
If you were going after my stuff, right? Because you'd get rid of me, right? You'd find my credentials and go after those permissions.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is just the example. I have asterisk for the domain, just because it's a local one. So whatever the computer name is, what's going to show up there.
Okay.
If it's a domain one, you could put the domain in there, and that should work fine. So we're going to run this, and now if we look at the ACL. Except for we're going to have to format that again. You can see that the up to no good is missing from there. But at this point, as you remember, we changed the object, not the file.
Can we go take a look at the file real quick?
Yep.
The file and verify that we have not made the change. I just was interested to see that.
I just overrode ACL, so we're going to have to run the for each again, but that was not my best moment.
Not the worst, though, either.
So if we're looking at, since I pulled the file back in, apparently, there's up to no good back on the bottom there. So now if we run this one, and then without overriding the variable, we just run the command, you can see
up to no good
is still there even after we do the removal. So
so that's that set that we were talking about earlier.
Yep, so now we're in that. So now we just take that variable and we pipe that into... What did I do there? I hit enter instead of pipe to just set-ACL. And this one, we're taking a specific folder on that one. You can take those ACL permissions and you can specify and set ACL a new folder. So you can copy the permissions that are in temp and copy that over to, I don't know, secret meatloaf recipes folder that is locked down.
Okay.
So since we have the ACL object now, we can take that, we can apply that to any folder. We have, to this point, been applying it to the same folder as an example, but in this case, I could take that ACL, point it to any folder, and it's going to overwrite the permissions.
So let's say there's this is for the nerds folder. You could test this on this temp folder and then say, yep, it's what I wanted. Run that against for the nerds folder.
Yep, and it will update with the new, whatever your ACL was. Just remember if you build a new folder, if you haven't turned off inheritance on that one, you're going to run back into the inheritance issue.
Okay.
All right.
Good to know.
The last part that we kind of covered with the iCackles was the capturing of the data and make it as an SCDL. You can do the same thing with PowerShell, where it's the same thing. We're going to run the command, we're going to capture it, you're going to specify that we only want the SCDL, and then you can either pipe that into another file, or you could pipe it into clipart if you wanted. I think clip.exe. Should we test that one live?
I like it.
All right, so we got $sign ACL dot, and then we're just going to pipe that into, what did I say, clip.exe?
Yeah.
open up a notepad. Yep.
Okay, let me ask you this. If you could type really, really well, you could type that string in, actually apply it, and it would set the permissions.
Yep, you could. Yeah, that string is everything it needs for the permissions for the computer to read.
I don't know why in the world I would ever type that. I probably couldn't get past the first 3 or 4 letters. And heaven forbid I put a dash in the right place, right?
Yep, this is where if a couple options you could do with this. If you have files that are changing because of bad faith actor or there's a different policy someone's writing it, you could either manually grab that ACL and push it in, or you could actually build a group policy with this and say, import this file and apply these permissions, and it will constantly override.
In Brock's case, right? He copied all the files over there on his. You could actually run this, get the permissions for all those files, and then apply it to the new copy of the server, and it would have put the permissions back in that case.
Absolutely, yeah. All he'd need is where he'd already, I believe, wiped it out. He'd have to rebuild the ACL how he wants it. Then he could take that copy and push it over his entire environment.
Okay. I'm just like, real world cases of this, right? I mean, now, can you do the same thing? I mean, are you just limited to files and folders, or can you go after, I don't know, printers? Can you go after other types of objects?
Yeah, anything that has security like that, those permissions you can get. So printers work. I haven't messed with that one, but you can apply that. We can try the registry ones.
Registry, okay. So you can go in and set permissions on registry keys so they can't be changed by anybody who doesn't have
Yeah, you could remove the system from having access to the registry.
I think that is a great use of abusive power. Is that a good way to put that?
Resume generating?
Is that resume generating experience? Okay, so 10 minutes. We're going to show people how to
so within PowerShell, they have a whole lot of system drives, whether it's for search stores or for registry. Like in this case, we're doing current users, so it's HKCU, which is the current users hive. Grab that one, but you could do local machine or just HK users in general. If cert : is to grab the cert source. So anything that you can access where you can peruse it in PowerShell, kind of like a file system. When it's not, you can run the same thing with the get ACL.
it just scares me. It scares me. Okay, first of all, editing the registry, if you've done this before, it should scare you, right? I mean, there's a lot of things you mess up, okay? Automating it to do a grundle of them, I don't know that I would do that. I mean, you can. Doesn't mean you should.
When it comes to permissions with messing with keys in registry can mess up your entire system. Messing with permissions is asking for a bad time.
Yeah.
This would be a great time to copy the SDDL that we're talking about, so you can put it right back
when you mess up. Okay.
As you see, the owner is listed as system as well. So apparently, I did not start the. There it is. There's the highlighter. Is listed as the owner of the system. So even if we removed it from the access, that's the account that's going to be able to go back in and restore things.
I'm just. Yeah. All right, so the ultimate, the golden rule IT, right? Backups, backup, right? So you can put it back if you mess it up. So, I mean, anytime you do this, good idea to keep the SDDL. Man, I'm hard pressed to find a reason to want to go in and ackle up the.
We're showing
the registry, man.
That you can, not that you should.
All right.
It's just it was just showcasing if anything does have any sort of security loadout like that, whether it's printers. I think I tried it on cert and I didn't get it to work. Maybe other people have more luck, but anything that is controlled by that kind of account, if PowerShell can reach it, it can open those up and change it. It makes it incredibly powerful, but not always wise.
Yeah. A discretion, better part of valor there.
We kind of touched on it earlier, but service accounts is one.
Service accounts would be a big one.
Yeah, okay,
well,
so.
if I'm using a real-world example from my time as a sysadmin, we had someone on the help desk go and give local admin to people he was interested in dating, and that required a lot of cleanup.
Ouch.
For real?
Yeah, that really happened.
I'm just wondering, how well did that work? Like, here's your opener. Hey, baby, I gave you.
I never
admin
checked how
access?
successful it was. We just found someone with admin access that shouldn't have had it through secured audit, and
Just,
Speaking of resume generating,
yeah, no kidding. All right, so I just want to outline the dangerous portion of this, okay, guys? So, first of all, be very careful. Make backups. Okay, get your SDDL in the event that something goes wrong. If you can use GPOs to do this, probably a good spot for it. Right tool for the right job, yeah?
Yep.
Onesie twosies, you can do it through PowerShell, which is probably a little more cumbersome, but automation through PowerShell, definitely.
Yeah, and we are talking onesie twosies on this. This is where Laps is incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have to worry about different folder permissions here. If everyone's using Laps, it's that service account. It's who has access to that account. So you can have something, especially with group policy, that just looks for those kind of changes. And if anything's outside a very static set, you get warnings and you can catch it. So something like Laps or something that lets you centrally control it where it's all uniform is incredibly valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Without that, like in this case, I mean, obviously I just added up to no good. But if you're basically relying on luck or something catching that on the side.
Well, let me ask you this. We do happen to be able to run a PowerShell scanner. Can we collect this data and then run reports and inventory?
Absolutely. With all scanners, how much data you collect is gonna mess with your database size, how fast the scan runs. So if you ran, I want to know the permissions for the entire C drive, that's not going to be usable. But if we do the continue, like we're looking at ctemp,
Yeah.
we know up to no good got this computer. We want to check other computers. We could just go to our scan profiles. I pre-built this one. Open that one up, and it's the same command basically. I'm doing the get ACL for ctemp.
Mm-hmm.
We're grabbing the access, and we're only grabbing the identity reference. That's who has access, and file system rights is what permission they have.
I do like the fact that you pointed out it's like you can collect a lot of data that's just going to bog your system down. So
Yeah. Yeah, in this case, we got one person on a single folder. We just want to make sure other ones are safe. You can just come in here and against the collection where it's only ctemp, it's going to go very quick. And run that against all of them, and we'll go see if he's showing up elsewhere or if we're protected.
That'll be great.
All right, well, that's running. Do we have any other questions that came in?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions we can get to. Hey guys, can you export NTFS permissions of a folder tree to a CSV? Thanks, Paul J.
I would think it's possible.
Okay, so you can get the object, right?
You got the object, and it has header title that one. You might need to do some conversion to get it in there.
I was going to say.
But there's an export-CSV that will put it into a file. Let's just
You want to try it?
let's give it a shot. We got $ACL that we'd grab. Let's dot access, right?
Yeah.
Access, and we're going to export-CSV. We're going to put that right in the one we're auditing. ctemp
CSV.
access.csv.
Like it.
Give that a shot. We'll go back in. We'll see if it's in there. Yep, there you go. It has the file system rights in there, whether it's allowed or denied, whether it's inherited, and then each reference has it. So, yeah, apparently it's that quick. Just take the access, pipe that into export CSV. I'm glad when it works out well for me because I was going blind on that one.
I like it.
Going in blind, not going blind. Vision's fine.
There's also a solution on Stack Overflow. It's got some code examples. It's export get ACL to CSV with path. Well, they could check that out.
Okay. So let's see.
We got any more questions?
We'll put that. The PowerShell scanner is done.
Okay.
If we can
Oh, yeah, there it is.
pop that up. You see, just a quick scanner went through. We grabbed that. It's exactly what we had in the CSVs we showed there. Just we only grabbed those two. You can grab more or less if you wanted inherited in there. It'd be a great place to add that as well. And that's just a way to go check to make sure up to no good. He got a single machine, but he was blocked there.
I'm glad you caught him.
All right. I guess questions.
We do have one last question. Can you use an install step to install a file that was already copied over to the local computer previously? I get an error that the server cannot find the file when trying ctemp/setup.exe nerd blah blah. Sincerely, Daniel M.
I mean, you should be able to, because ctemp is on the local drive. It's not a, if you copy the file over to the user profile,
Okay.
then you'd have to run the next one as the logged on user to be able to find that file. But if it's on ctemp, that's just,
If you're calling the direct path ctemp,
yeah. Because the
I
install
think you
step
could, but I would just go after the command prompt. I mean, instead of install, I know they asked about an install step, but command step, you can do it there because it's already there. You know where it's looking. Just I'd do it that way. I know the install step generally looks to move files over, so I think you could, but
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's probably the best way. Instead of doing an install step, do either a PowerShell or command step,
Yeah.
and then put in the command line hard coding where you save that file
Yeah.
with the silent install parameters. You just have to make sure you manually include the silent parameters.
Yeah.
But that should work. If not, please let us know.
yeah.
All right.
Well,
Any other
that's the last
questions, or-
question, huh? All right,
I have a question.
Okay.
you don't get one, dude. Go ahead.
Get ACL. Is there a recursive parameter for that? Because it doesn't look like there is. I know iCackles has one.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's anything, I think /T is recursive for iCackles. With PowerShell, I think if you just put a wildcard at the end of it, \**, it's going to go and grab everything in that folder. Should we find out?
Yeah, try it. Let's do it. Now, while he's doing that, I'll throw some warnings up. Okay, once again, guys, careful with your permissions. Make some backups if you're going to do it, especially if you're doing it on a mass level. And let's find out. Here we go.
Don't forget the flag what if.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I run it only against ctemp. But yeah, so
That works too.
yeah, so dash what if will let you know what it's going to do without actually running it. That is incredibly valuable. It's built into just about every command you're going to find. What if is, if you're not sure what's going to happen,
What if it?
even if you're sure what's going to happen, what if it the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Resume generating events.
Yeah.
It prevents that.
Yep. See, so this one, so with the \**, we did go in and grab the specific exe, and that's the permissions for that executable. So I don't know if there's a attribute for recursive, but with wildcard like asterisk, it's going to go and grab everything.
Cool.
Most of the examples I found online were using like get child item prior to, to recursively search through those folders and files.
That one does also work, especially if you do get child item, you can do a lot of formatting beforehand and trim it down so you're grabbing. It doesn't have to be folder specific. You can grab exactly what you're looking for and pipe each one of those. So get child item is a fantastic option if you're looking to keep it with just one command, just the asterisk, but both will work.
Go for it.
There's a question that came in the chat there. It says, is there a way similar to ACL export to get a report of delegated rights on AD objects in domain?
Let's see. Delegated rights? I'm trying to...
Yeah, put me on the spot. I would say yes, but I'd have to research it. I'm sure there's got to be a way to do it. I just, off the top of my head, boy, that's a...
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for that one, if it's possible.
You know how I research this? I usually walk up and talk to Josh. I'm like, hey,
There you
dude,
go.
can we do this? So,
He's probably yelling at us right now.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
absolutely, you guys. Phew. So,
Unfortunately, I've mostly focused on just grabbing the local ACL if we're looking for delegated rights, and I'm not sure how to differentiate that without really
Delegated,
diving
yeah.
in. Yeah.
well, so we've covered everything you ever wanted to or never wanted to know about ACLs today.
Yep, and this is going to be world changing, but if you have some one-offs here that you're looking for, or where someone has done something, this is a great way to be able to do a quick audit to get everything cleaned up and make sure you're secure.
And if you do get audited and they say, prove that your GPO is doing this, pump it out to a CSV file or text file and you can show. So I guess that's it, guys.
Thanks for tuning in. Go through and don't remove your ACL permissions on the registry.
Yes, don't do that.
For PDQ.com, I'm Jordan.
I'm Lex.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations to Daniel M. and Paul J., winners of PDQ swag. Send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. If you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to our support forums. You can also throw them right there in the YouTube chat. And if you like what you've seen today, just make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube page. Have a fantastic week, and we'll see you back here next time.